Hello, hello. Good morning. Are there NUHW leaders in the house? Listen, we're going to, if I could have your attention just for a couple of minutes, we're going to get, the forum will start at 10 a.m. sharp, but I need to have a few logistical announcements, NUHW leaders, so please listen. At this moment, everyone should be checked out of the hotel rooms by now. Our breakout sessions will begin at 12:15, right after the forum. Check the back of your badge to see which breakout section you are assigned to. Boxed lunches will be out there. Feel free to grab one. Suggest you take it to your breakout session and have lunch there. If you're not going to a breakout session, you can have lunch anywhere you want. The sessions will be done by 2:30. If you have checked luggage in the luggage storage room, you have to pick it up by 3 p.m. Airport shuttles depart every 15 minutes and will load in front of the hotel. The Southwest terminal is just a few minutes away if you want to walk. And later this afternoon, following the forum, you and all of our members will receive an email with a link to vote on our union's endorsement. Voting will be open until 5 p.m. Wednesday. We okay? Okay.
Muy buenos días. Gracias por estar en este evento. Este evento empezará dentro de un momento. Será transmitido en vivo. Vamos a poner a los candidatos en sus puestos en la tarima. Ahora vamos a tener un reloj para mostrar cuánto tiempo falta para el inicio. Gracias.
Welcome, everyone, to the NUHW Governor Candidate Forum. I'm Sal Roselli, the President Emeritus of the National Union of Healthcare Workers. In 2017, NUHW hosted the first gubernatorial debate of the 2018 election cycle. 2 years ago, we partnered with the publication Roll Call on the first forum for California's 2024 senatorial election. Last year, our forum was in conjunction with our media partner, the Los Angeles Times. Today, we're thrilled to host a forum once again with the Los Angeles Times, as well as Spectrum News, featuring 5 of the top Democratic candidates in the race to become the next governor of California. All of the candidates here on the stage have been endorsed by NUHW in the past when they were seeking other offices. All of these folks are considered our friends. I do want to note that Toni Atkins was planning to be with us this morning, but due to illness, she had to cancel. We wish her a very speedy recovery. Back in 2009, healthcare workers here in California founded NUHW because they wanted a different kind of healthcare union, one that is a strong advocate for both healthcare workers as well as those they care for. Our membership includes nurses and nursing assistants, medical technologists, social workers and psychologists, housekeepers, clerical workers, occupational therapists, and respiratory therapists who work from San Diego to Eureka in hospitals, nursing homes, mental health clinics, and patients' homes. NUHW is a union that empowers its members to make important decisions related to bargaining with employers, policy positions, and political endorsements. Our union is the proud sponsor of SB 221, a landmark state law that requires health plans to provide timely return therapy appointments, and AB 3211 that made it easier for state regulators to swiftly enforce mental health parity and other patient protection laws. We continue to advocate for universal health care for all, including better care for those seeking help with mental health issues. In this room, there are 400 NUHW leaders and stewards, and many more NUHW members are watching this online. Following today's forum, our union's 19,000 California members will receive an electronic ballot and will have an opportunity to vote for their top choice for governor in the June 2026 primary. The deadline for voting is 5 p.m. Wednesday. Results will be announced Thursday. It's clear that recent decisions being made in Washington to disinvest in healthcare affects our members and their workplaces. Millions of Americans are losing or being forced to pay more for their health insurance. The federal government is bullying health systems to deny patients gender-affirming care, vaccinations, and other treatments. We're seeing a sharp increase in violent ICE raids that are resulting in more hospitalizations of detainees and more ICE agents inside our hospitals. The next governor of California will have to provide leadership on healthcare policy and a wide range of other issues important to NUHW members and all Californians. I know we will be listening very closely to what the candidates have to say. Let's get started. It's my honor to introduce our forum moderator, the Associated Press's U.S. Planning Editor, Lisa Matthews. Lisa.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you, and welcome everyone to the 2025 NUHW Governor Candidate Forum. This event is brought to you by the National Union of Healthcare Workers in conjunction with media partners, the Los Angeles Times and Spectrum News 1. As Sal said, I will be moderating this discussion and asking questions on behalf of the Associated Press. Working alongside me for approximately the next 90 minutes will be 3 journalists experienced at covering state and national issues, including healthcare, labor, and California politics. First, we have Phil Willon, California politics editor for the Los Angeles Times. Next, we have, that's okay, go ahead, give him some love, give him some love. We also have Melanie Mason, who covers California politics for Politico. And finally, Amrit Singh, news anchor and host for Spectrum News 1, Southern California. So I want to thank these journalists for participating in this civic exercise. Now, let me give you a few additional details about the program that we're about to engage in. As moderator, I'm here to preserve the integrity of this forum. More simply, it is my job to ensure that the questions asked of each candidate by our panelists or by myself are actually heard and answered. I'm talking to you candidates, okay? Okay, questions answered by the candidates should be addressed to the questioner and not directed at each other. Again, I'm talking to you, candidates. We have limited time, right? So I'm here to ensure we don't get sidetracked by tangents, personal attacks or long speeches. During this forum, we're going to go through 7 rounds of questions. Each round will cover a specific topic. Reporters will pose a specific question to 1 or 2 candidates who will then be asked to answer within 90 seconds, okay? While each candidate will get multiple times to speak while you're up there on the stage, folks, you will not receive the same question. Okay? Those are the rules. We're going to end with a lightning round of some policy questions, and then you know how I roll. I like to have fun at the end. Candidates will have 60 seconds at the end to answer, or you might be asked to participate physically and give me a high raised hand in response to a question. Our timekeeper will make sure no one exceeds the allotted time. A bell that sounds like this will let candidates know that they are out of time and must yield the floor. Are you ready? Is everybody in the audience ready? Okay. Let's meet the candidates. Okay, so the order for opening and closing statements, just so you know, the order of questions were determined by yours truly and the panel of journalists. So here we go. Beginning from my left, your right, we have 5 of the top announced candidates for the 2026 California gubernatorial election, beginning with Katie Porter. Antonio Villaraigosa. Xavier Becerra. Betty Yee. And Toni Thurmond. Okay, let's get rolling with opening statements from each candidate. We will begin with Katie Porter. You have 1 minute.
Good morning, NUHW. I'm so thrilled to be back with you today to have the chance to say thank you, not only for your tireless work in our communities, but for your policy work, for your political activism, for your commitment and willingness to say not good enough. When patients suffer, when healthcare workers can't focus on healing, you deserve a partner who, like you, is never afraid to challenge the status quo. My entire career has been a consumer advocate who's taken on those who break the law and held them accountable, making things right for working people. I'm a single mom who ran for Congress to stop Donald Trump's attacks on healthcare. And when I'm governor, I'm going to make sure that everyone, from the largest providers to frontline workers, is able to focus on what is most important: patient care.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Villaraigosa, you have 1 minute.
Good morning. Thank you to the NUHW members who are here today. Thank you for being on the front lines of the mental health crisis. This is a state with enormous possibilities, a state that's given me more than I could have ever hoped for growing up in a home of domestic violence, alcoholism, with a single mom who struggled to make ends meet. And too many people are struggling to make ends meet here in California. The number one issue facing this state is the affordability crisis. And health care is a big part of that affordability crisis. And mental health care is key to making sure that we're providing the care, both physical and mental and substance abuse, that people need in this state. And so as your governor, I'll work with you every single day to make sure we address that healthcare crisis and that we take on the issue of mental health parity. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Becerra.
Lisa, healthcare is on the ballot. I am the son of immigrants, a construction worker and a clerical worker who knew it was their job to make sure their 3 daughters and son had good health and a better life. Healthcare is on the ballot, and I intend to be California's healthcare governor. I have shown through experience and results as Secretary of Health and Human Services, as the Attorney General for the state of California, as a congressman for 2 decades in Washington, D.C., that I could get things done. Whether it was launching and passing the Affordable Care Act, whether it was defending the Affordable Care Act all the way to the Supreme Court against Donald Trump and winning, or whether it was fighting against the pharmaceutical industry in gaining lower prices for the 10 most expensive drugs in Medicare, we can get things done. Make no mistake, healthcare is on the ballot, and I intend, with your help and your support, to be our healthcare governor.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Ms. Yee, you have 1 minute.
Good morning. Thank you, NUHW, not just for today, but for our mutual belief that California is better off when we're all better off, and it begins with workers. The strength of our state depends on the dignity of our workers, the health of our communities, and the ability to protect the most vulnerable among us. You know my story. Many of you probably share a similar story. Immigrant parents, sharing a room with 2 or 3 siblings, a public school education, and dreaming about doing more for families like mine and yours. I've been a fighter all my life, and I spent my career standing up for working families. And my story and my vision for California has resulted in my earning the highest number of votes of any statewide candidate in California history. I'm running in this fight to be your next governor, and I hope to do that again together with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Thurmond.
Good morning, NUHW family. Buenos días, mi familia de NUHW. Gracias por oportunidad para hablar con ustedes, to share my vision for this state. I'm running to address homelessness, to build affordable housing, to make sure we have good paying jobs, and to expand healthcare. That means that you get better benefits and compensation, and we provide better care for our patients in this state. My fight will be for those who struggle in this state, to make sure that those who can't pay for gas, for housing, for groceries, get a tax credit while we tax the wealthy instead. I know what it is to struggle. You know that my grandparents were immigrants who came here from Colombia, from Jamaica. You know that I am the descendant of slaves who settled in Detroit, Michigan, by way of Mississippi. You know that I grew up in a household because I lost both my parents by the age of 6 and grew up in a household with food stamps, government cheese, and a whole lot of free lunch programs. Together, we can make a better state
Thank
for
you.
everyone in California.
Thank you, Mr. Thurmond. Okay, time is slipping by, so let's get rolling. First question comes from Phil Willon. He's going to be talking about Medi-Cal. Phil.
Good morning. Let's get right to it, shall we? Earlier this year, California faced a $12 billion shortfall. One of the major causes was recently adopted state policies expanding Medi-Cal coverage to all income-eligible immigrants, regardless of residency status. Do you support providing Medi-Cal to undocumented immigrants? And please explain your reasoning. Also, with major federal cuts to Medicaid expected after the 2026 election due to actions by President Trump and the Republican Congress, if elected, what benefits or beneficiaries would you cut from the healthcare program? Let's start with Ms. Yee.
Okay, thank you for the question. With regard to providing Medi-Cal services for all eligible people here in California, including those undocumented, I do support services to the undocumented population. I dare say that if we should ever encounter another public health pandemic, I would want to be sure that every Californian, every person who's here in this state has access to healthcare services. And as we think about the Medi-Cal cuts that are coming down, I think oftentimes we think about overuse of Medi-Cal benefits by those who are eligible for the program, when in fact, and let me just go back to our undocumented population, they do not overuse services in the Medi-Cal program, and that is a myth. So we need to look at how we gain greater efficiencies in the program. I'd like to bring back the independent audit of the program because we have not had that authority for a long time where we can actually look at provider fraud that has been rampant in this program for years, and also look at how we prioritize the services that we are going to be providing in Medi-Cal, particularly being sure that we take care of our safety net providers and those that really are really the most vulnerable among us, children and our seniors.
Ms. Porter, how about hearing your thoughts about this?
California has been down this ugly road before. A time not that long ago in our history when we denied health care to every person living in California. We should not go back. When every person in California is healthier, each of us is also healthier. So I support providing Medi-Cal and health coverage to every single Californian, regardless of their immigration status. If they're here, they're working, they're paying taxes, they're contributing to our community. We benefit from having them be healthy, and they can't do that if they can't access health care. These are the people in our churches. These are our people working side by side with us in our workplaces. These are kids in our schools. So we absolutely need them to be healthier. To do that, we need to do what we should have been doing for quite some time, which is tackle the cost overruns in Medi-Cal. If we're going to expand coverage, we need to drive down the cost of care. That means having a leader who is not bought and paid for, a leader who doesn't take corporate donations, a leader who's willing to go toe-to-toe with those who are driving up the cost of health care, making it difficult for us to provide care to everyone who needs and deserves it.
Thank you. Mr. Becerra, why don't you take a crack at it?
California's healthcare governor cannot start excluding Californians from healthcare coverage. And so every person in this state must be part of the access to healthcare. When your child needs care, you're going to take your child to see that doctor or go to the hospital, regardless of the cost. And so why would we do it by making these folks wait until it becomes more expensive because the condition becomes worse and they walk in through the emergency room instead of to the primary care physician? We will have a healthcare system that gets to universal coverage for every Californian. That's what a California governor who is focused on healthcare will do. And we will not bend a knee to Donald Trump because he cuts Medicaid, Medi-Cal here in California. We will work together. There is more money spent in the healthcare system in this country than any place in the world. We have the money. It just has to go to the providers who provide the care, to the workers that are here who offer that care, so that the patients can get it. And it should not be denied to anyone, because as the son of immigrants, I know what happens when you feel like you're excluded. We will not do that. There is money in the system. We will bring everyone together, but no one will be excluded.
Thank you so much, Mr. Becerra. Our next topic is affordability. Melanie Mason.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. The high cost of living consistently ranks as the top concern for California voters. Mr. Thurmond, what, in your view, is the single biggest factor making California feel unaffordable? What will you do to address that?
Thank you. You know, wages have not kept pace with the high cost of living. And we can't expect the cost of housing to go down. There's no government policy that's going to make that go down. And that's why, as governor, I will provide a tax break for working Californians and middle-class Californians who cannot afford to pay gas and grocery and housing. I will build 2 million housing units using the surplus property that exists on California school land all across the state in every one of our 58 counties. And we will take care of the needs of the affordable of the homeless in our state, 40% of whom are older Californians. And right now we're working on a plan to bring another $1 billion to build affordable housing. As governor, I'll stand up for working Californians and tax those who are wealthy so that they pay their fair share. We will hold health companies accountable so that we can pay for providing health care for the undocumented. As a legislator, I was proud to vote for Medicare for all, including undocumented Californians. And as governor, I will restore health care for all for undocumented Californians. Just like I brought legislation to this state to say that there's no room for ICE in our schools and there's no room for ICE in our hospitals and our emergency rooms, we will stand for our immigrant communities and for our working communities all across the state. And we'll make sure that we create good paying jobs in California and affordable housing for everyone in our state.
Thank you, Mr. Thurmond.
Mr. Villaraigosa, you talked about affordability in your opening statement. I'm going to challenge you to find one driving factor that you think above all else is contributing to the affordability crisis.
First of all, as I said, this is the biggest issue facing Californians. Too many people are struggling every single day to make ends meet. I grew up in a neighborhood like that, where people stayed up at night to thinking about what healthcare costs could mean when their child had a serious accident or an illness. I believe that the biggest issue we could deal is leadership. We need leadership on the issue of gas prices. We have the highest gas price in the United States of America. On the issue of utility costs, the second highest utility costs in the nation. They've gone up 60% in the last 6 years. For many people, they're paying now more for utilities than they are for rent. As governor, and finally, home prices. It used to be that home ownership was part of the American dream. Now for our kids, it's renting an apartment with 3 roommates. That's the nightmare they're living. So what do we need to do to drive them down? One, we need to build more housing. That means streamline permitting. That means address the bureaucracy and red tape that we have. That means address a broken CEQA system that makes it impossible to build in this state, where the average unit is almost $900,000 a unit. And so as governor, I am going to focus on affordability. I have a proven track record as mayor and as Speaker of the California State Assembly, and I'll put that track record and that wherewithal to work.
Thank you. I'd like to drill down a bit on the housing issue in particular, which all of you mentioned as a driver of the affordability crisis. This month, state lawmakers passed SB 79, which is a major housing bill that would override local zoning laws to allow high-density housing to be built near transit hubs. Supporters say this measure will generate much-needed units, but local governments, including LA City Council, call it an overreach by Sacramento, and some single-family neighborhoods are worried about too much development in their communities. Ms. Porter, do you think that Governor Newsom should sign this bill?
Yes, absolutely, and I have been very public about this for a number of months. You asked what is the single biggest driver? You asked for one thing, and I'm going to give it to you, which is housing. That is the single biggest building block of families' budgets. And as somebody who pays the bills in my family, I know that is the number one thing we need to tackle. The SB 79 allows there to be more development near areas of transit. There are places where we do need to build more housing, and near transit is absolutely one of them. For the climate reasons, to make it cheaper for people and easier for people to be able to get to and from work. So we're talking about adding density in areas that are ready for density because they already have that transit bandwidth. I think it's really, really important that nobody, no area, no county, no city escapes from being part of the solution of building more housing and bringing down costs. We are not going to grow as an economy in California if we do not attract new people and we do not retain the amazing workers and young people that we have. And to do that, housing needs to get more affordable. That means a number of policies, but one of them has to be building more units.
I actually want to ask a quick question of Mr. Villaraigosa before we go to the next topic, because I have a family member who lives here in California, and he's moving out of his single-family home into an apartment, and the rent in the apartment is double, almost, what he pays in a mortgage. Give me specifically what you would do as governor to address the high cost of housing. You have 30 seconds.
Thank you for that question and the 30 seconds you gave me. Let me just be clear what we need to do. We need leadership. I said that before. We need someone with a track record. What we need to do is build more housing. That's the number one. That means market rate, workforce, affordable, homeless housing. We need all of the above to address the high cost of rent and the high cost of housing.
Okay, good enough. Moving on. Go on to
30 seconds.
Thank you so much. Amrit is going to talk about the state versus the federal government.
Yes,
Take it,
thank you,
Amrit.
Lisa. Thank you, NUHW. Thank you, candidates. An honor to be here with you. Certainly an interesting time in the relationship between California and the federal government. In recent years, we've seen California leaders go to the courts to challenge Trump administration federal policies with some success. But a recent Supreme Court order finding that immigration agents can stop people based on race, language, and vocation shows that those lower court victories can be undone by the 6-3 conservative majority. So if the Supreme Court rules against California on an issue like immigration, climate, or healthcare, what would be your approach to defending California values and policies without breaking the law or jeopardizing federal resources? Mr. Becerra, we'll begin with you.
Amrit, I've had experience on this, obviously. For 4 years, when Donald Trump was president the last time, I was Attorney General, and we took him on, fight after fight, women's health, the Affordable Care Act, making sure that he didn't treat immigrants unconstitutionally. And most of the time we won. I ended up suing Donald Trump over 120 times. And we protected the state of California, we protected you, and we protected our values. How will we do this? We'll make sure that we use every law in the books to stop them from doing things that aren't permitted. Donald Trump can send ICE enforcement in, but he can't do policing on our streets. That the Constitution leaves to us. You need someone who knows how to fight Donald Trump. You need someone who has actually beaten Donald Trump, and you need someone who knows how to run the laws to win. And what we can do is beat him when he overreaches, and that's what he does all the time. And as Attorney General, that's why I won. I beat him on DACA in defending our immigrant dreamers. Why? Because he overreached, and I took that case all the way to the Supreme Court and won. We can beat him again, but we have to be smart, and we have to use all our tools. So, for example, with ICE enforcement, we have to use our local law enforcement, our state and local police the right way, because they cannot at the federal level do local and state law enforcement. The moment they go over beyond federal law enforcement, ICE enforcement, we step in.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Ms. Yee.
Thank you. So let me just say, California has been a leader, and we will always be a leader. And I'm just going to address the climate issue particularly because as we see rollbacks of just environmental goals that were set, California is not backing down. And in fact, the leadership that we can provide is becoming the next industrial climate leader of the world. We have technologies that can be deployed in terms of how we're going to meet our climate goals, that can create jobs, that can really strengthen our economy. And these are things that we can do, not running into any roadblocks by the federal government. And I think this is what Californians expect. We're not going to sit back and not fight. Nothing's going to be given to us. Everything's going to be a fight. But we have a lot to work with in terms of being for something and building up an economy that's going to create living wage jobs that are going to really help with the climate crisis. And I think that is really one of the antidotes is how do we become more economically resilient from the federal government when they keep looking at us as a target of reducing funding and just rolling back progress that we've made. So I think this is a positive. I look at every crisis as having an opportunity, and we have the brain trust. When federal agencies have been hollowed out of their professionals, we have them here in California. We're going to protect our workforce. We're going to protect our professionals, believe in data and science, and we are going to continue to be the climate leaders for the rest of the world.
Thank you. There is no doubt that federal resources were a part of and continue to be a part of our response to the devastating LA fires. What is one thing that you feel that you would have done differently if you were governor in response to the rebuild and beyond with the LA fires? Begin with Mr. Villaraigosa.
The first thing I'd do is collaborate with the city and the county. What we need is leadership that understands it takes an entire community to address a crisis like the fire there. When I was mayor of Los Angeles, I provided assets there at that fire. But that was a fire that, was something that we had never seen before in terms of 100-mile-an-hour winds, both in the Palisades and in the Eaton fire. So the next governor is going to have to address a number of things. High cost of insurance, a California FAIR plan that's not working. We were the only state that wasn't doing catastrophic modeling, the only state that wasn't doing reinsurance, and the only state that took more than a year to address rate hikes when necessary. So as governor, we're going to drive down and take those issues on, but we're also going to provide the services to make sure we can build faster and streamline and suspend CEQA when it comes to building in the Palisades and in the Altadena area.
Ms. Porter, what is one thing that you feel you would have done differently as governor in response to the LA fires?
We didn't know that fire was coming, that those fires were coming, but we knew that wildfire is going to continue to be a risk in California. And we did not learn the lessons of the past fires in terms of building a fire resilience plan and a wildfire fund that was big enough to take care of the damage. There are families still today who are fighting, whose homes have been leveled, who lost loved ones in that fire, who are fighting with insurance companies, trying to prove to them the cost of their Tupperware so that they can get reimbursed. So we need to have pushed much harder at the insurance level to have a plan to make sure that we had clear rules about how insurance companies had to compensate families, that we had a wildfire fund that was big enough to withstand the climate risks that we face. We have an insurance commissioner in California, but that does not let anyone in leadership, whether the governor or the legislature, off the hook for doing the hard work of planning for a disaster and making sure that you are thinking about those who are going to be most vulnerable and the most hurt, and to make sure that they're not going to be stuck almost 8 months after a fire without a single penny yet from their insurance companies.
All right, thank you so much. Our next topic is the death penalty. Phil Willon.
Hi, Governor Gavin Newsom enacted a blanket moratorium on executions shortly after taking office. He did that despite the fact that California voters rejected ballot measures to abolish the death penalty in 2012 and 2016. His moratorium is an executive action and can either be extended or rescinded by the next governor. What action will you take and why? Mr. Becerra.
As Attorney General, I faced that question because while it was the governor's decision to put a moratorium, I, as the Attorney General, defend all of those death penalty verdicts when it's guilty in the courts. And I have to defend them against challenges by the very people who were convicted of the crime. And what I said then is what I will say to you today. I am not personally one who believes the death penalty gives us the deterrent we need. I do not believe every Californian has gotten a fair verdict in these fights, that our juries sometimes are not allowed to really hear all the evidence, that prosecutors haven't always put forward all the evidence before them. And I believe we have to have a system that can always stand up to scrutiny. But here is what I will tell you. We have to be aggressive in going after crime, especially the most heinous crime. And so as governor, I believe there should be a moratorium, as Governor Newsom has imposed, for those who were previously convicted. But I will make sure that we have a judiciary system and a prosecution system that takes into account that we must show fairness in order to be able to implement the law of our state as the people want it. But until then, someone who grew up not having much, I'm not going to take it away from people until I know for a fact they have justice. We have to be right the way we do this, because if you make the mistake, you cannot undo the mistake of a death penalty.
Thank you.
I had one follow-up question, Mr. Becerra. If the death penalty returns to the statewide ballot and voters again reject abolishing the death penalty, will you honor that vote?
Phil, the question is, will the judicial system honor the need for a fair trial? I have said to you, but listen, I was the AG. I know the law.
Mr. Becerra, he asked you a question. Yes or no?
And Lisa, no, Lisa, it's not just a yes or no. Life and death is not just a yes or no.
Well, that is
I will
true.
get to the yes or no.
Okay.
But Phil, what I will say is that what we need to do is make sure the system is fair. But if the people vote for it and the courts have said that death penalty is legal, I will enforce.
Mr. Villaraigosa, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this too. And also, regardless of how you feel on the topic, what would you say to the victims of murder victims if you extended the moratorium about why you did that and whether justice has been served?
Well, first of all, I'll answer the question. Yes, I would extend it. But like my colleague, I don't think it's just a yes or no answer. Let's be clear. This is life and death. I don't believe that the state has a right to put people to death. I just don't. I do believe that, as my colleague does, that we need to make sure that our trials are fair to everyone. We know historically they've not been as fair to people who are poor and of color. We know that for a fact. We know that many people have been charged with a death penalty crime and ultimately vindicated over time when we've reviewed the case thoroughly. So with respect to that issue, let me be clear. I will extend it. I believe that people, however, who have committed serious and violent crimes, who have committed murder, as an example, need to go away for a long time. I believe that. I was the only candidate that supported Prop 36. Why? Because smash and grab initiative was important. 71% of the people of this state supported it. When I was mayor, crime went down 50%, but not just with cops.
Thank you.
I was going to pose, Mr. Villaraigosa, the same follow-up question to you. If voters in the future speak on this issue in a statewide ballot, will you honor that vote?
Yes.
Right. Again, thank you for mentioning Prop 36. That's my next question. California voters resoundingly supported Prop 36 last year, which extends sentences for some thefts and drug offenses. Its passage was largely seen as Californians wanting to reverse course on some progressional criminal justice reform. Please explain your position on Prop 36, and whether you think the Democratic Party has failed to address public concerns about crime. Ms. Porter.
Mr. Villaraigosa was incorrect because I did support Prop 36 and I did vote for it and I was public
So
about
did
it.
I. So did I.
But I was also public about the fact that there are very real problems with it and very real shortcomings. I think the response we saw from voters is that they understand that retail crime is real. It affects them. It affects the safety of the workers in those stores and the safety of our communities. But Prop 36, with regard to retail crime, did not focus on prevention, which is the best thing that we need to do, not an approach that incarcerates. I understand people who break the law, there should be punishment, and that punishment should be designed to change their behavior so they do not repeat that crime. That, with regard to Prop 36, though, the prevention piece was missing, and I think the legislature had an opportunity to do that. There were ideas that came from businesses, retailers, large and small, to do that, and I think it's unfortunate we didn't move forward with that instead of Prop 36. The piece of Prop 36 about those with substance use disorders, I disagree with strongly. People who have substance use disorders have an illness, they have a disease, and they need care. They need care that is driven by data, that is effective at preventing substance use and putting them on the pathway to being healthy. We have already been down this road across the country of incarcerating people for being ill, for having drug offenses. It doesn't make us safer.
Thank you very much. Mr. Thurmond, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, and also if you think there is anything to Republican allegations that Democrats are soft on crime. Is that a vulnerability for the party and for all the candidates on this stage?
Let me be clear. I voted no on Prop 36. You shouldn't have to go to jail to get help for substance abuse. I'm a social worker in my career, and I know that we have to have programs like those that I worked with in mental health and using Medi-Cal to help those who didn't have insurance. You know, as governor, I will continue to work to deconstruct the criminal justice society, just like the legislation I passed to ban private prisons that make money off incarcerating people like the people like us in this room. And so Prop 36, by design, was set up to say that if you have a substance abuse issue, that you will get treatment in jail. Many of you, like me, I go into the jails and work with families and tour the jails, and so many drugs are already in the prison system. And so we, as governor, yes, I will implement the provisions of Prop 36 that are the law. But here's what I will do differently. I will put more money into treatment for substance abuse programs and diversion programs for those who commit minor crimes. You shouldn't have to spend your whole life in jail for a minor crime that you have committed. I believe in accountability, and I've supported some of the legislation that says we can have more accountability for those who have retail theft. Trust me, in 1 year, I had 2 cars broken into and a car stolen from my driveway. Okay? And I understand the impacts, but we need to have a system that is preventative. We need to have community police officers and programs like the paid internship programs that I created in Oakland and we're launching in LA this year to give people an opportunity.
Okay, moving on to our next topic, homelessness. Melanie.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. A Supreme Court ruling last year gives local governments more authority to impose criminal or civil penalties on homeless people for violations such as sleeping on the sidewalk or public camping. This ruling divided Democrats in the state. Some, like LA Mayor Karen Bass, has said that the ruling will not lead to Los Angeles imposing more penalties as a means to move people off the street. Governor Newsom has said that cities and counties no longer have their hands tied and should be more assertive about clearing encampments. Ms. Porter, what do you believe local governments should be doing to address homeless encampments on their streets?
What we need to do is build interim housing so that we have meaningful and appropriate and humane places for people who are currently living on our streets to go. We can do that interim housing rapidly, and we can do it at a very affordable price point. The long-term solution to homelessness is to have more affordable housing, full stop. But in the short term, the interim housing options that we are seeing in many cities across California at a very reasonable price point are giving people a real choice. These are not shelters. These are homes. They are places that people can have. They can have privacy. They have a place to be, keep their belongings, and to be safe. Interim housing is really important, and it is basically unfunded right now at the state or federal level. The second thing about homelessness is we cannot continue to spend to help people get off the streets unless we are spending to keep people from becoming homeless in the first place. Many people who are homeless suffer from mental health and substance use disorders. That's not why they're homeless. That's because they are homeless. So we have to prevent people with rapid rehousing programs, with eviction assistance programs, to keep people from becoming homelessness in the first place.
Good. I'd like to follow up on that, though. When we're talking about people who have been offered shelter and have turned it down, should civil or criminal penalties be an answer in those circumstances?
I think that's going to depend on what the community has done to provide alternatives. Providing someone a shelter where they are separated from their children, where they are separated from their pet or their belongings, that is not meaningful housing for people. That is not going to work for people. And in those cases, I understand why some people say no and are reticent to do that. Where what we need to do is fund at the state level the kinds of housing alternatives that we see people who are experiencing homelessness take and like and want at that rate. So I would leave it up to different cities. I think very rural areas in California have different challenges here than big cities. They have different kinds of rehousing opportunities for people. But if a city took that approach, I would want to see if it was working. I would want to study the data. I would want to be on the ground and see if that is working to ultimately reduce the unsheltered population.
Thank you. Ms. Yee, I'd like to put the same question to you. What do you think local government should be doing? And should penalties, either criminal or civil, be part of the mix?
I think criminalization of homelessness should be a last resort, if a resort at all. We have a housing crisis. And there are many interim steps that can be taken with respect to how we address the homelessness issue. But first, I would say, let's understand who is unsheltered today. It is a complex community. Yes, there is a portion of that population that has chronic mental illness and substance use history. But we're talking about working families. We're talking about people who, probably some of you in this room, who are close to just not being able to pay your rent. There are so many other policies that can be put in place. I happen to have supported rent control in the last ballot because it's rent stabilization. It is how people are going to remain in their homes so that they don't get into the spiral of becoming homeless. So I think in terms of this criminalization, there are so many other options. Let's get people the help that they need. Let's, yes, prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place, but these intermittent supportive housing options are available. And we are not putting our money behind that. They have been proven to really provide the stability that people need while they are giving access to services, and so we should start there. We also have students, many students who are homeless today. And so you look at the complexion of this community, it is not a one-size-fits-all. We should definitely work on just how quickly we can get people rehoused, and the intermittent housing support is really important.
Thank you. I'd like to also ask Mr. Becerra about this. Do you agree with Governor Newsom that cities and counties need to be more assertive? Do you plan on using state funding as an incentive or maybe a hammer to nudge cities and counties along?
Melanie, I think what the governor was saying is we have to make sure we are able to place people somewhere other than leave them on the streets. And so he got aggressive. I believe actually, the local governments get a lot of money. We just haven't seen ourselves the results that we all want. And so what I would say is, first and foremost, we have to just agree, as a family in California, we will not watch a brother and sister have to sleep on the streets. At the same time, we can't accept if that brother or sister says to us over and over and over again, no, I don't want your help for my addiction. No, I don't want your help because I have mental health challenges. No, I like staying here. We have a responsibility, not just to them, but to the entire community, to make sure people are not living on the streets. They are in danger, and homelessness puts a lot of us in danger, including our kids, as you try to go to the parks, as you try to walk to schools, as our communities and businesses try to thrive. What I would do as governor, different than Governor Newsom, is I would make a commitment. Just as I said to you, I'm going to be the healthcare governor for California. I'm going to be the governor who says to anyone who has a shelter over the head today, you will not lose your shelter during my term as governor, because I'm going to work to keep you housed. Because you know how much it costs me to find you housing, to get you the services you need? If you start living on the street, it is way, way more expensive than if I'm able to keep you housed. My mom used to say to me always, mi hijo, es mejor prevenir que remediar. It's better to prevent than to remediate.
Thank you so much. Our next topic is redistricting. Amrit.
Thank you, Lisa. We have a special election coming up. I don't know if you've heard the news or received the mailers or seen the TV ads. Prop 50 would seek to redraw congressional districts in a way intended to give Democrats 5 more seats in the U.S. House. Republican gubernatorial candidate Steve Hilton has gone to the federal courts. He's asking for an injunction. He seeks to block Prop 50 on grounds of violating the Equal Protection Clause and diluting votes. And there are millions of Republican voters in California who feel politically neglected, and they feel that if Prop 50 passes, they will be even further disenfranchised by having less Republican representation in the House of Representatives. So what would you say to those Republican voters? What is your vision for them in your California as governor? We'll begin with Mr. Thurmond.
So let me be clear, I support Prop 50 full stop. I sponsored the legislation to get it on the ballot in the first place. I think it is so important that we not only win, but when we win, we use those 5 seats to claw back all of the changes from the so-called big ugly bill to get people back on health care, to get people back on Medicaid, and that includes Republicans. This is not really a partisan issue when you think about what was lost in terms of who got kicked off of Medicaid. It's older Americans, it's Americans with disabilities. This is about as cruel as it comes, and I'm someone who's worked with Republicans on bipartisan legislation in every area, and it is a matter of civility and doing what is democratically right. And that doesn't mean Democrat with the big D, with the little d, because once these maps have been drawn, everything restores to the original maps created by our Citizens Redistricting Commission. We have to continue to stand up to an administration that is trying to steal the election in Congress because he knows he's going to lose. And so just like when he stole $1 billion from California education and we sued his you know what, and got $1 billion back for California students. We're not going to let anybody trample over California democracy, whether it's our voting rights, whether it's having the right to have a Department of Education. Education saves lives. We're not going to let anyone get rid of the U.S. Department of Education, and I fully support Prop 50.
Thank you, Mr. Thurmond. Senator Schiff has talked about this as Texas trying to dilute California's vote. But again, those California Republicans are feeling like it is their vote that is being diluted inside California and in the U.S. House. Ms. Yee, how do you speak to those Republican voters, and what's your vision?
Well, first of all, I support Prop 50, and this was not a fight that we actually wanted to have. This is in response to a clear attempt to mute our representation in Washington. And so we have to fight back. We have to fight back. And to your question about how do you talk to Republicans about this who feel like their representation is going to be even more diluted, I've had those conversations with Republicans, particularly in the North State portion of our great state. And what I say to them is, look, yes, you're going to be in a new district. They're concerned that rural California now will be in a district with some northern coastal communities, and how are our interests going to be represented? And I said to them 2 things. One, As a voter, we have a responsibility to hold all of our candidates and elected officials accountable about who will best represent our interests, one. Secondly, look at who's representing you now. You have a congressman who voted for healthcare cuts, voted for the Medicaid cuts, did nothing, made no effort to keep the critical access status of your rural hospitals that are closing in 2 weeks, and was the leading voice of cutting food assistance even before the big ugly bill. So you tell me how your interests are well represented by your current congressperson. And it created a moment of pause. We all have a responsibility to really understand who's going to represent our interests well. And sometimes I believe people just don't even think about that.
Thank you.
I hope they will start thinking about it now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Hill. Balance of power in the House is important for so many reasons, including regulations. But in some cases, thank you. In some cases, it is California that is leading the way on regulation. Artificial intelligence and tech companies provide California with tremendous amounts of promise, innovation, but also some peril. Now, state lawmakers recently passed a new nation-leading AI safety and transparency bill, SB 53, which would require certain disclosures and also protect whistleblowers. What is the next aspect of AI that you feel needs regulation, and how would you get us there without stifling innovation? Ms. Porter.
AI has potential. The question is, are we going to be willing to hold power to account to make sure that it is used in ways that actually help us? That's the question. AI can do some amazing things. It can help us identify and cure disease. It can help make it easier for people to get information. It can help take some of the dangerous and unpleasant aspects of jobs. But we have to be clear on what is the purpose of any particular use of AI. It's not an one-size-fits-all. It's not an always yes and an always no. It is, what is this use of AI doing? I think we can all think back to examples of technology, whether it's the internet or something else, social media, where it has been positive, and we can all think back to examples where the effects have been negative. So the goal, I think, with AI is to understand it is a tool. It is fuel. You choose the engine or the weapon or the good or bad that you put it in. With regard, let me offer healthcare as an example. When we are talking about using apps, for example, that people choose, that providers recommend to help their patients, to provide in-between therapy, to provide, not therapy, but in-between therapeutic feedback, to provide data collection. How did you feel today? What happened today? Those can be very helpful. What is inappropriate is when someone is trying to make an appointment to see a healthcare provider
Thank you, Ms.
to be
Porter.
diverted to
Thank
an
you, Ms.
app
Porter.
to save a buck.
Thank you, Ms. Porter.
And again, we have seen California move where the federal government has not yet with this new AI bill, SB 53, which does require disclosures of some AI companies and protect whistleblowers. Mr. Becerra, what's the next aspect of artificial intelligence you feel is the biggest threat, and how would you regulate without innovating away all this revenue that comes to California?
Amrit, we have to have way more than just transparency. We need to be able to obviously look behind the curtain of what these companies are doing. Make no mistake, AI is coming, and it can be beneficial, but it should not be used to replace workers and not offer them any alternatives. It should not be used to go into your private life. It should not be used to let children, adolescents, end up committing suicide. And we cannot go the route of what we saw with the internet, where we treated the tech companies with such grace because we wanted them to succeed. And now we can't control them. They are the ones that are controlling us. And so let's learn the lesson of the 90s and the early 2000s. Let us make sure we sit those AI companies down and say to them, you got to be transparent. Let's establish the rules of the road. You get to establish that innovation. We get to establish the rules of the road, and we need the people to weigh in with us because they're the ones that can give us the good advice. No one wants to see these devices used the way they are today with social media hurting our children. And we have to fight back. And that's why you need a governor who's known how to fight. I took on Google. I took on Facebook as Attorney General. I went after those companies for cheating us and violating the laws. We need to fight back because they're very powerful, but they can be very powerful for good if they work with us, they show transparency, and we establish rules
Thank you,
of the
Mr.
road.
Becerra. Okay, that was a lot. It's a lot. So let's do a little lightning round. How do you guys feel about that? Gonna participate with me? Yes? Okay. So, first question for you. Should Senate Democrats refuse to vote for the continuing resolution and allow the government to shut down if they do not get concessions on health care? Ms. Porter,
Yes.
Mr. Villaraigosa,
Yes.
Mr. Becerra,
Of course, yes.
Ms. Yee,
Yes.
Mr. Thurmond.
Damn straight, yes.
Okay. Raise your hand high. Don't give me any of this, okay? High. Raise your hand high if you support single-payer health care in California. Whoa. Thank you very much. Okay, now a question from an NUHW member. NUHW member Jackie Patrick is a patient care assistant at Children's Hospital in Oakland. And I'm very sorry, Jackie, if you're in the audience, I had to edit this one. You run a little long on me. The first part of Jackie's question goes directly to Mr. Thurmond. Earlier this year, University of California, San Francisco Health canceled union contracts for about 2,500 workers at Children's Hospital Oakland, where Jackie works. So this is a very personal question for Jackie. As a member of the UC Board of Regents, Mr. Thurmond, Jackie wants to know why you didn't work to prevent this. And you have 60 seconds.
Thank you, Jackie. I'd like you to know that I have worked to prevent this and that I reached out to various lawyers to see how we can block it. And I'm still working to make sure that the UC will not take the $100 million that was established for Children's Hospital Oakland to support patients who are dealing with care issues. And so we're still working on that issue. And I want to give a big shout out to the customer service staff at Children's Hospital Oakland, because as a build on to that last question, AI can never do what you do. And Benioff is trying to replace 3,000 workers at Salesforce. We won't allow that to happen at Children's Hospital Oakland, and we will fight with you and stand with you until we get this reversed in the courts, because we need Children's Hospital Oakland in Oakland. We stand with you and we stand for you until we get this done.
Thank you. Now, for everyone else, because I see you on the edge of your seats wanting to answer. If you are elected governor, would you allow the University of California to cancel union contracts in the same way, beginning with Ms. Yee?
No,
Yes or
I would
no?
not allow it. Our UC should be the model of how we protect our healthcare workforce. And frankly, we have a shortage of healthcare providers right now. And well, we're just cutting our nose to spite our face, but at the end of the day, who is hurt? It's the patients. And so this is where it's really critical, given the healthcare crisis that we're in now, that the UCs really are the model of how we value our professionals, value our providers, and be sure that we are doing everything we can to protect patient care.
Same question to you, Mr. Becerra.
No, of course not. As again, here's where I go back and tell you, you need a governor who has the experience. As Attorney General, many of you know, I fought against the Janus decision in the courts to keep the Republicans from gaining the ability to stop you from being able to unionize. As the Secretary for Health and Human Services, I actually established 2 unions. The researchers at NIH, the graduate fellows, had never had a chance to unionize. Under my leadership, more than 5,000 of them became union members under UAW because we work with them at NIH so they could actually collectively bargain. And talk to the Treasury employees in a union in Washington, D.C. They had not had a contract for more than 10 years. When I became the CEO at HHS, we sat down and negotiated. They reached their contract. Today, there are more union employees at the Department of Health and Human Services than when I started. That's what I'll do as governor as well.
Mr. Villaraigosa, what about you?
I was a UC regent. In fact, I went to UCLA on an affirmative action program, and I've said to many, one thing's for sure, I may have came in through the back door, but I came out the front. And I'm absolutely committed to making sure our students and our workers there get the justice that they deserve. And so I will sit down with the regents and the UC president to make sure that we don't balance our budgets on the back of the workers that help to make those universities thrive. And so I will, look, a lot of this job is rolling up your sleeves and sitting people down and getting things done. And I did that as speaker with your union, with Sal, way back when. I did it when I was mayor, and I'll do it again as governor.
Ms. Porter, same question to you.
The issue here is not Janice. The issue here is that the University of California uses the fact that it's set up as a trust as an excuse for why it is able to skirt labor laws. That's the actual legal issue. And so while Janice is a terrible decision and wrong, that is not going to be the solution here. The solution here is what Ms. Yee said. It is what Betty said. It is to make sure that the University of California understands its role to be a beacon of how we want California to lead, the model for what should be done. I was proud to stand side by side with graduate students and others, researchers, to help UAW form the largest new union in the United States in the last couple of years. And I have their statewide endorsement because they have seen that I am willing to stand up and go toe-to-toe, including with our University of California systems. I am a UC employee. I understand firsthand how important it is that they're fair.
Porter. Our next question comes from another NUHW member, Shay Loftus. Shay is a psychologist with Kaiser in Fairfield, California. Shay asks, Kaiser was fined $200 million in 2023 for violating mental health laws and still hasn't met its corrective plan. This is according to Shay. State regulators also lack resources to enforce compliance. So Shay asks, as governor, would you strengthen enforcement and improve care for Californians with mental health and substance use disorders? And each of you has 60 seconds, and I'll begin in the middle. Mr. Becerra.
Absolutely, we have to do enforcement more. I tell you that again as the Attorney General who would enforce a lot of the laws that businesses, industry, and individuals are not respecting. And what we will do is what I did as Secretary of Health and Human Services, because we had oversight of the nursing homes. More people died in nursing homes during COVID than in any other place. Why? Because we didn't have enough personnel there who were getting paid a decent wage so that they could care for folks during this COVID crisis. And what we did, we started investigating, going in and doing the surveys that tell us which are the deficient nursing homes and which are the ones that are doing it properly. And then we established a rule that said every nursing home must have minimum staffing standards, because we saw what happens when you don't have enough people there. If you're going to call yourself a nursing home, then have a nursing home in your facility. And we're going to do the same thing when I'm governor. We're going to fight to make sure we enforce the laws, because that's how we get not just good service, but our money back.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra. Mr. Villaraigosa.
Thank you for that question. Actually, the fine wasn't $200 million. It was a $50 million fine and $150 million required to invest in mental health parity. They didn't. 19 out of 20 of those charges, 2 years later, haven't been completed. And so the next governor has got to say, we will have mental health parity. We know, because you've showed us, it actually doesn't cost more to the healthcare plan. It is the right thing to do. I said earlier, we have a healthcare crisis, we have a mental health crisis, and we're not providing that parity that we need for people who are, all of you who are providing that care. And as your governor, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Villaraigosa. Ms. Porter.
The issue here is not just resources. The Department of Managed Care does lack resources. They do need more tools, but I don't think that's the only thing they're lacking, if you get my drift. They are lacking, I'll use the word courage. They are lacking the will to do what is right for patients. And it is not just California where we are seeing this. When I was in Congress, I passed a law, the Mental Health Parity Act. It was signed into law, and it is still on the books. That law required data to go to the HHS secretary about how health plans were and were not providing mental health parity. And guess what those reports showed year after year? That you know the answer, that health plans were violating the law. And yet, even at the federal level, there was no leadership that was willing to enforce mental health parity. If you didn't do it then at the federal level, you're not going to do it at
Thank
the
you,
state
Ms.
level.
Porter. Ms. Yee, same question to you.
Absolutely. So we have had mental health parity as law here in California for quite some time. You know, enforcement looks, a good enforcement program really needs to have a couple of components. And as your former controller, I will just say, sunshine is the best component. Just letting the public know what these health plans are doing relative to meeting the mental health parity laws, whether they're in compliance, what their caseloads look like, whether they are providing a robust provider network, whether they are, and if they're not, whether they are paying for those that have to go out of network to be served. But this is all about just sunshining what these health plans are actually doing and complying with the law. Now, clearly they're not. Clearly they're not. But the enforcement has to be with consequences. And whether it's penalties, whether it's looking at losing particular types of status, we have to have consequences for noncompliance, and that's what enforcement looks like.
Thank you. Mr. Thurmond.
As governor, it starts at the top, and I will point a director at the Department of Managed Care who is not an ally or a friend to the health plans, but who's going to be an advocate to help hold them accountable. We will rank the health plans for how well they meet mental health parity in our state. And when they are out of compliance, we will fine them, and we will use those fines to expand mental health programs in the state. As I mentioned, I've worked in school-based mental health for 5 years. I've used Medi-Cal, and I care deeply about that. And I will use the position as governor to help and require and enforce the healthcare plans to do better by you, to provide you with better compensation and better benefits. And ultimately, the state has to provide better reimbursement rates for those who are clinicians in our state. I've launched a scholarship in this state for anyone who wants to become a clinician. It's $20,000. If you know someone who wants it, have them call me, 1-800, where you at? I got their money. We're going to continue to have more clinicians in this state and hold the healthcare plans accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Thurmond. Okay, another question on behalf of NUHW. NUHW is preparing legislation that will ensure that behavioral health care professionals are compensated at rates that are comparable to those paid to providers of physical health care when the two share substantially similar qualifications. So what NUHW wants to know is, with your hand raised high or not, will you commit to signing this legislation if it gets to your desk as governor? Raise your hand if your answer is yes. Okay. Another question that I have for you to raise your hand high. Raise your hand high if you or a family member ever relied on Medi-Cal or another public health program.
Family member?
Or a family member, yes. Thank you. I've got I have a few other questions. This is just me right now. Should gasoline cars, because I know you guys are really big on the environment here in California. So should gasoline cars be banned? Yes or no, Ms. Porter? Yes or no?
I'm not going to answer that because you're not giving me a time frame.
Oh, you have yes or no? Okay. Yes or no, Mr. Villaraigosa?
No.
Mr. Becerra?
By 2050, for that time
Yes or
frame,
no?
yes.
Ms. Yee?
Ultimately, yes.
Mr. Thurmond?
No.
Okay. Would you cancel the bullet train project? Yes or no? Ms. Porter?
No, not without fighting like hell to get it done.
Okay. Mr. Villaraigosa?
No.
Mr. Becerra?
No.
Okay. Ms. Yee?
No.
Mr. Thurmond?
No.
Thank you. Okay. I promised at least one fun thing. But I know that you guys are like, man, Lisa's really, come on. Okay, so my fun thing is Halloween is right around the corner, right? You are trick-or-treating. Who or what are you dressed as? Katie Porter.
A whiteboard.
Mr. Villaraigosa.
The next governor.
You're going to be wearing a dress.
Mr. Becerra. Mr. Becerra.
I wore it before. It was my dad's equipment and a uniform, a construction worker.
Okay. Ms. Yee.
My authentic self as a daughter of immigrants.
Okay. And Mr. Thurmond.
You took my governor answer. An NUHW superhero like all of you.
All righty then. This was great. So it's time for final words from the candidates. And we're going to begin with Mr. Thurmond. You have 1 minute.
Thank you all for this great opportunity. I know that the challenge ahead of you is great because you've got a lot of great public servants and friends. But the stakes could never be higher. And I implore you, as you make your decision, to think about 3 things: experience, vision for this state, and lived experience. I shared with you my experience, 18 years as an elected official at every level of government. I shared with you my experience as a social worker, running clinics for foster youth, working in mental health, and then lived experience, the importance of being raised in a household as the son and descendant of immigrants, growing up on public assistance and parlaying education as an opportunity to become a public assistant, knowing the struggle that Californians are faced, and why I have said I will provide a tax credit and a break to working Californians, given where we are at this time. I would just ask that you consider those things in the vision that we have for creating 2 million housing units and addressing homelessness in our state. Thank you so much.
Mr. Thurmond. Ms. Yee, you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much. Thank you, NUHW. And, you know, we are really living in some perilous times. And what I will say about what I hope to bring to the people of California is my experience. I am the only candidate who, as a member of the Board of Equalization, actually successfully fought against multinational corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. And this is what it's about. We're all struggling. Many of you are struggling, but people have to do their part. I'm the only candidate sitting here who's been a state controller and a state budget director. We've got to get the finances right, but more importantly, get the finances to reflect our priorities. Our state is strong because of the dignity of our workers and the health of our communities and our ability to protect the most vulnerable among us. And this is the work that we have to do. These are our values. We are not giving up on our values as we move forward. And my job is to make California add up for working people. I am not a gimmicky person. I don't swear. I'm not a flashy person, but I know how to balance budgets and I know how to win statewide.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank
Yee.
you.
Mr. Becerra, you have 1 minute.
To NUHW, thank you for everything you do and for hosting this forum. From day one, I will use my experience to be California's healthcare governor. I will use everything I've done, every fight I've been in, everything I've learned to make sure that we never take a knee to any menace or cheater in Washington, D.C., that we will always be prepared to fight for better wages for those who provide us the care we need, to make sure that everyone in this state not just has good health care, but has good housing, has an opportunity to send their kids to a good school, has safety in their streets so Toni doesn't get his car ripped off or vandalized. We will make sure that we fight because California has the money. We just have to put it in the right places. And I ask you to help me to put all that experience as a congressman, as your attorney general, as the secretary for the largest health department in the world, and work for you to make California succeed despite the menaces.
Thank you, Mr. Becerra.
Thank you.
Mr. Villaraigosa, you have 1 minute.
Thank you, NUHW workers, for being on the front line of this healthcare crisis, and particularly the mental health crisis. Being on the front lines without the resources, without the compensation, working every single day, because you believe that one person can make a difference. And together with your union, you can change people's lives. Thank you to our moderator and our journalists for asking questions today. I'm not big on the yes and no questions, but I'll say this. Look, everyone, I was Speaker of the California State Assembly. Your union and your president knew who I was. I was there for you at every turn. I was mayor of Los Angeles when I didn't have to get involved with issues that were important to you, and I did. I am of someone who's been speaker and mayor, balanced budgets, took on crime, schools. I will be a proven problem solver, someone who's done it before. I'd be honored to have your support as governor.
Thank you, Mr. Villaraigosa. Ms. Porter, you have 1 minute.
I've spent my career as a consumer advocate taking on predatory lenders. I have passed laws to lower costs and improve mental health care parity and coverage. And I have taken to task government officials who were asleep at the wheel, or worse, driving us off a cliff. We need a governor who is fierce and tough, and that's exactly what I am. We have had enough of the status quo in California. It is time for bold leadership and new good ideas. It is time for a governor who will go against the grain, who will challenge conventional wisdom, who will speak truth to power, and who will fight like hell for ordinary Californians. Together, NUHW, we'll get this done. Thank you so much.
Well, I just want to say thank you to all of our candidates for sharing their views. You guys are awesome. And to our reporters for their thoughtful questions. And to all of you behind me for joining us. We really do hope that this forum has given you a clearer sense of where each candidate stands. And now, I'd like to turn the stage over to NUHW President Sophia Mendoza.
First of all, I want to thank our moderator, Lisa Matthews, and the members of the panel. We are all leaving here today with a much better sense about the candidates' positions on important issues and what's at stake in this election. And let's hear it for all the candidates. Wonderful job. I'm going to welcome our executive board members to give each one of you a pen to express our appreciation for being with us today. We hope that whichever one of you is elected governor, that you'll use your NUHW pen to sign the bills important to our members into law. It's our union's policy that endorsements in major races are left to NUHW members to decide. So very shortly, dues-paying members in good standing across the state will receive an email with a link to today's forum and an electronic ballot to cast their endorsement vote. Voting will begin at noon today and continue through 5 p.m. Wednesday. We'll announce our union's endorsement on Thursday, October 2nd. So now it's time for everyone to get their lunch.